Hey everybody, what's up? Jordan here. If you know me through Twitch, you probably know me as I'm Japan. Today we're going to take a look at one of the deck lists from the top 16 of the Korean Invitational that was hosted by Riot. We're going to take a look at the deck list that I think is best for you to ladder with and rank up with quickly so you can get to master and start playing the decks you really want to play. So we're going to jump on over to the deck list real fast and get going. Here's the top 16 deck list of Spider Aggro that we looked at the Korean Invitational just a couple of days ago. So this was played by Gogong Singh. I think I'm pronouncing it correctly. It looks phonetic enough. But he played Noxus, Spider, Aggro. In my opinion, it's easily the best deck to rank up with quickly because of how fast the deck is and because of how efficient it is if the meta is not exactly expecting it. Let's go in the order that Legends of Runeterra has placed these cards. By the way, I think Legends of Runeterra is an awesome resource and you should definitely check it out. They have decks from the Korean Invitational, ones we won't cover today, Masters decks, everything. And speaking of Masters, there are Noxus Spider lists that are in Masters, so you know that this deck can get you there. Right out of the gate, you see probably two of the strongest champions besides Ezreal, in Elise and Hecarim. Elise is obviously a very aggressive early game threat that turns into a good board clear later on, and then Hecarim is the boogeyman of the format, so to speak, and I don't think he's going to last long in this current iteration, so make sure you get his games in now with him, where, you know, when he attacks as a 4/6, he makes 6 power in 2 different guys, so he's a very aggressive threat late game, and he can close out games quickly. Which closing out games is really the only thing he needs to do, because the rest of the creatures in this Spider Aggro deck that Gogong Singh is playing here are very fast and get the game over very quickly. You see 6 1-drops, which is a lot for the format currently, in Legion Rearguard, which is the guy that forgets his axe, the 3/2 that can't block, which, by the way, just as an aside, it's a travesty that he doesn't say, "I forgot my shield," instead of forgetting his axe, because he can't block. Maybe it's supposed to be ironic, but I don't think so. Precious Pet's the 2/1 Spider with Fearsome that costs 1 mana. Either of these on turn 1 are great to get the aggro going. Obviously, it's better if you're turn 1 with this deck because you do play such aggressive 1-drops. But in getting onto the battlefield for 2 damage is where you want to be. But even a turn 1 play where you're not attacking these creatures are fine, because you get to open an attack next turn if the draw works out that way. Arachnid Horror, Arena Battlecaster, and House Spider are the next 9 2-drops that you have. All of these cards are important, along with Elise, the champion that we already talked about. All these cards are important for keeping the pressure going. Going House Spider into Battlecaster, which is going to give your team +1/+1, allows you to go wide and big at the same time. Arachnid Horror is great against most of the 2-drops in the format because they can't block it, so you're going to be able to keep that aggressive pressure up. It's not uncommon to win with this by round 4 or 5 if your draw just lines out right, because Frenzied Skittier, the next card in the 3-drop slot, allows you to just push through with +1/+1, -1/-1 to their team, and it kind of gives your Fearsome units even better. I think most people know at this point, if you're watching this video, that Frenzied Skittier is great because of its Fearsome, and it basically enables Fearsome on all your cards. But the curve out potential of Precious Pet into House Spider into Frenzied Skittier is terrifying for most decks that actually can't keep up with it. And splash an Elise in there on one of the off turns, and baby, you've got a Spider Stew going. The real linchpin, I don't want to say linchpin, that's a bad word. One of the real, my favorites in this deck, pun not intended, is crowd favorite, because of how wide you get to go with Elise making spiders, with Precious Pet being easy to cast, with House Spider making 1,000,000 spiders. It's very easy for a crowd favorite to be a 7/7. In fact, at this point in my testing with this deck, I'm upset if it's not a 7/7. The Overwhelm is super important, because by this point you've whittled down the toughness on your opponent's creatures as you're just attacking and sending your team, or your opponent has to do some blocking otherwise, because, well, it's not that profitable to block a crowd favorite when it's a 6/6 or a 7/7, right? The crowd favorite plays really well in the Spider deck and is honestly one of the better additions that Noxus gets us. Looking at Gogong Singh's spells here, Crawling Sensation, just another excellent way to go wide. Oh, you blocked my Precious Pet, or you killed my Legion Rearguard. I don't care, man. I'm going to make 3 more of these things. I'm going to flip my Elise with these, and then I'm going to kill the rest of your board next turn with Challenger. That's it, easy peasy. Mark of the Isles is great in combination with that, because it does allow you to kill one of your guys, and it's actually an excellent card to trade up with Zed being a prominent feature in a lot of decks, including the Elusive deck and then the other Demacia decks that are running around. Mark of the Isles allows one of your 1/1 spiders to just trade up and kill a Zed or kill any other kind of problematic 3 or 4 toughness creature that you wouldn't otherwise be able to deal with. Mark of the Owls is actually a very important card in most matchups. So, excuse me. So if you see that your opponent's playing a threat that's very hard to deal with, that you're like, well, my 1/1s are going to be trash against this, Mark of the Isles is actually the comeback card and allows you to turn the table, because they're going to make a profitable attack or what they think is a profitable attack or block, and you're going to be able to blow them out with Mark of the Isles. Happens all the time. And it's honestly one of the hallmarks of playing this deck, where they make a bad block and you're just like, haha, fool, I got you. The next card on here is Brothers Bond. A similar thing. Brothers Bond allows you to trade up while also letting your more powerful spells like Hecarim and Crowd Favorite become more aggressive through their overwhelm damage that they do. Elise, you typically don't do a lot of Brothers Bonding on because you don't often trade her up. But with Brothers Bond, your 1/1s and your 2/1s become very formidable threats. And like I said, the overwhelm on Hecarim or Crowd Favorite as you get later into the rounds, it can also just be a knockout play. Decisive Maneuver is a card that I actually haven't experimented with too much in my own builds. It's the 5 mana stunning unit, give your team +2/+0. I actually like the concept of this card a lot. My problem is it feels really like a win more card. I'd push back on Gogon Sing and say, do you really need 2 of these, or do you need something that's going to help you win when you're behind? I've been playing a 1 of Decimate in that 5-drop slot. It's a 5 mana and it just deals 4 to the Nexus. I found myself in a lot of games where I get my opponent down to 3 life, 4 life, 5 life, and I'm not able to push through because the creatures are not late game tenable, and I haven't found a Hecarim, or they've killed my Hecarims, and I'm kind of just out of luck. So it's the Decisive Maneuvers actually, it's the Decimates actually that have allowed me to push through the final damage. Just another thing you can top deck that ends the game. And you might be thinking, well, isn't that pretty narrow? Like, what if you don't get them that low? Then does it become a dead card? And you might be right that if you don't get them that low, that becomes a dead card. But there are very few situations where I don't find my opponents at 3 or 4 life. Oftentimes, if I'm going to lose the game, it's with them in that 5-0 life range. And that's really annoying. And Decimate actually helps clear that up. Because once your opponent has a steady stream of 3 blockers or lifelink guys, lifesteal guys in this game, it gets very tough for you to win once you get to that round 6, round 7 curve. So having something that just dodges that completely is a very important part of the game. Some other noticeable absences from Gogon Singh's list are Vile Feast, the 2 mana deal 1 and heal, or 2 mana drain 1, and make a 1/1 spider. I don't know how much you need it in these lists. I have them in mine, but honestly I might cut them. He's playing, it looks like, the Arachnoid Sentries instead of me, which is the 3 mana come in and stun a guy. I don't play the Arachnoid Sentries, I play the Vile Feasts, but I could see me trying to test that out to see if maybe that allows me to push even more damage through it. My problem with like cards like Arachnoid Sentry where you're stunning creatures is that by the time you play it and stun a guy, they've already played another guy. That just negates your play. Now you're swinging every turn basically anyway, so it doesn't typically matter, but that's why I play the Vile Feast. Is sometimes you can pick off a blocker or pick off an attacker like a Teemo. This deck would go, the deck as Gogon Singh has built it, would have a very difficult time interacting with Teemo. The next noticeable lack of inclusion is the 2 mana sacrifice a guy to draw 2 cards. That card is really effective against opposing decks, like Zeds with your 1/1 spiders that are going to block. You can get some value out of them. It's very efficient against lifelink guys, where if they block it, okay, I sack it so you don't gain the 5 life that you're trying to gain. Targeting spells with the Ezreal Ash decks that care about that. That card's been really useful to me too. I don't know what out of this list I would cut. But I do think it's worth consideration, and maybe again it's in that Arachnoid Sentry spot. Maybe it's trimming down on the Brothers Bonds, Crawling Sensations, or Decisive Maneuvers is where I'd put it. So if you wanted to adapt this list a little bit, you could get a little bit more control friendly. Which kind of brings me to the next point of like, how the hell do I play this thing, right? You do exactly what you think you should do. You attack. My favorite combo in this game, if you've ever played League, you know there are combos. My favorite combo in League of Legends is the A button for all attack and the space button for OK. So with this deck, you get to be really good at that combo. A button, space button. We're going to attack every turn mostly. We're going to use our spells to push through damage. If you've ever played a deck like Mono Red and Magic, or maybe you've come from Hearthstone with aggressive strategies like Zoo, it's this. This is what we're trying to do. It's just attack and get it out there. Decisive Maneuver is excellent, actually, to give it some credit on your overwhelmed targets like Crowd Favorite and Hecarim. Let's say they block one of those guys. Well, not only does Crowd Favorite get +2/+0, it's actually going to attack through that damage too because it's been stunned. So you're just attacking using your spells to push damage. It's really easy. Bad matchups for this deck, and this is one of the reasons I would push back against Gogong Singh. And before I go any further, Gogong Singh is playing in a limited environment with 16 people. He's got to burn 3 decks. This might not even be his best deck that he likes, or maybe he doesn't like the way he configured this. Where I would push back on this particular build in a vacuum, if you're going to take this to ladder, is that it has a very hard time with the Ezreal decks, with the Karma decks, and with the Ashe decks. It would also have a difficult time dealing with a Teemo or a Jinx that's been flipped. If your opponent's flipped Jinx, you're probably losing the game anyway, but this deck has a very hard time with Mystic Shot removal, with the, I don't know the name of the card, the Clapping Hands, deal 3 and discard a card removal, because of how weak the guys are. And with that in mind, I would really want to stock up on things like Vile Feast for your own counter removal, and things like the card that you sacrifice a guy to draw 2 cards. Because, okay, they're going to take care of one of your guys, we can agree about that, but at least let me replenish my hand. Because while you do draw cards very quickly in Legends of Runeterra, you don't draw them quickly enough for situations like that, I guess I should say. With that being said, I do think that this deck is excellent in the meta at large. Dawn Spring Spiders, this deck stomps on the fearsome decks that are Hecarim and Demacia build. This deck, but with the Demacia cards, this deck stomps on. It's just a step faster than those decks are trying to go, and it gets under them very quickly. Even lately, I've had an okay time against the Ezreal decks, but again, I am playing a slightly different version that may have a little bit more game against them. But I could also see if Gogong Singh came to me and said, no, you have to press the pedal down on those guys or they'll out-control you. It's kind of a column A, column B thing on how you want to look at it. The nice thing about Runeterra is that games are very quick, so you can adapt your list to your particular needs. I would say that we should jump right into this deck right now if you want to ladder up quickly. I know that I went from like Silver 4 to Diamond 4 with this deck, and like 3 days of just kind of playing a lot because of just how fast the deck is and how unprepared a lot of people are for it. If you get off to a good start of Legion Rearguard, and then on your turn 3 when you're attacking, you go like Precious Pet, Arena Battlecaster, they're dead. They can't do anything about it. So that seems like your kind of style. If you want to push the pedal down and kill some Nexuses, this is the deck for you. Hey, thanks for checking out my video on Spider Aggro. If you like this video, please click the like button and the subscribe button down below. This channel is going to get a lot more active here going forward. We're going to do at least 1 video every week and up to 5 videos a month over here. So it's going to be a really good time to get involved. My link to my Twitch is also down below, where I stream every Monday, Tuesday, and Thursday. So if you want to see this deck in action or other decks from the Ranked Ladder and Expeditions, please come out. I'd really like to see you. Thanks again for watching, and have a great rest of your day.